Good afternoon. Welcome. This is the 43rd CALLERLAB convention in Norfolk, Virginia. Thank you. My name is Mike Hogan. This is the session on overt operations. And 15 of you. Did everybody get the handout in the back? In the back chair there's a handout. We can just grab one for Claudia too. That's awesome. So I hope that you enjoyed your lunch, and I hope that you didn't eat so much that we'll put you to sleep in this session. Let me give you the kind of the rundown of what the session's about right out of the book. It says, Overt Operations. Have you had the opportunity to talk about square dancing on the radio and television? Have you ever been contacted by a reporter about square dancing? Have you been asked to provide information about square dancing in your area? Come learn helpful tips to assist you in that. So to start with, I'd like to introduce Barry Johnson. Barry is our panelist. He is from Lake in the Hills, Illinois. Started calling in 2008. I know a little bit about Barry. He is a computer guru, genius kind of guy. The software that the national conventions are now using is the software that he wrote. And so a lot of that kind of stuff. He's also the business chairman for the 65th National Square Dance Convention in Des Moines, which we would love for you to come to. And one of the things we were talking about is he, back in 2004 or 5, somewhere in there, he produced a half-hour TV documentary that on square dancing that's played. So he's got some background in working with the media, and so if you would please welcome Barry Johnson.
And of course our moderator, Mr. Mike Hogan out of Omaha. Mike is a marketing guru. Anything you want to know about, particularly if you're talking about the radio industry and mass markets, Mike is the man to pump for information. It's his day job, it's his profession, it's his passion, and he does it well, and he passes the word along. So can't think of a better person to have up here. I'd like to talk a few things about media. When we say media these days, what does it mean? Let's sort of, for the sake of this conversation, let's break media up into 3 different categories. Let's talk about broadcast media. Let's talk about, geez, now I can't even think here. What's my... print media, thank you, print media, and then third sort of category being internet published digital type of documentation. Obviously some of our radio programs can be delivered across the internet digitally. iHeartRadio music app, yes. Putting in a plug for Mike's business. The television can be delivered by internet or so on, but nonetheless, it's still, you can think of it as broadcast media, as print media, or as stuff that's targeted mostly at digital time-shifted audiences. There are separate genres within each of those. Let's start off again with television. That's kind of one of the first things people think about when we talk about media. And if we look at television shows, at things that are produced, you're generally going to have things that are put together either by a local station, or you're going to have something that's like a news program perhaps, or you're going to have like a morning show, a community, what's going on in the community type of thing, or else you're going to have a special feature that might be played on, say, a cable television's community channel, where they're always looking for content. And we want to talk about all of those because the way that you work with those people is different in all 3 of those cases. And then you can go on to radio productions and radio shows and the like, and then we can talk about internet-based things. One of the things I'm not expecting to talk about today would be the general class of what we call social media, which is content you produce yourself and distribute by the internet. There's a whole separate topic on a separate session on social media coming up next hour. Stop by and see them if that's where your passion is. talking about television, let's go back to that. We'll just kind of walk through some of these things. Television shows, if you're talking about something like a news show, you've got some special event that's happening. You think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we could get a camera crew in here and they can do some interviews with us and so on. There's some language, some features you need to be thinking about. First, they're trying to deliver things that are of interest to their community, things that are, to their watchers, to their subscribers, to the people watching their news. They want to deliver things that those people will want to see. Furthermore, they want to package them in a way that fits in with the rest of their broadcast. You're going to be one small piece of many things going on. And so they have particular packaging and flow and sequence that they're expecting to use to help make your segment one that fits well into their program. Their desire, particularly when you're talking about television, is to show things that move, that have color, that have flow, which may not be exactly the message that you're hoping they're going to carry on your behalf. Okay, so their interests are in let's find a short, quick visual hit. We can talk about it for 15 seconds and we're going to move on to the next thing. Where your interest is different. Your interest might be, gee, we've got a lesson season coming up and we're trying to promote we want folks to come start looking at our activity. So you begin this situation working with the news crew, coming from two different perspectives with two different goals. And you can manage that effectively, but you need to understand their side of it and they need to understand your side. Visuals. You generally, when you're trying to get someone to carry your message and deliver it to a large market of people, you want typically to try and put the listener, the watcher, into a frame of mind where they can imagine themselves doing what they're seeing on television. You want them to say, that looks like fun. I can see myself doing that. I can imagine myself doing that activity. I'd like to try that. I'll take action and go look for more. But the way that the news crew wants it, they want to find the unusual, the hook. They want to find something different about the activity that makes this worth their time coming out. They want to interview the 97-year-old square dancer. You know, they want to see the ladies in their large flowing skirts when your message might want to come in casual clothes. You don't have to wear the funny things. The television crew might want to see these swirling, flowing dance movements where maybe, depending on what your market is or who you're trying to attract, maybe choreography might be a little bit more different. So the challenge here then is how you go about giving them, the news producers and the segments, the visuals and the shots that they need, while carrying your message across, perhaps in the form of interview questions and the way that you answer those things. So once again, for a news crew, they're going to want to come out and show, they're going to have maybe a reporter that does a brief introduction, say framing what this segment is. We're here at the Colorado State Convention visiting with so-and-so. It just kind of set it in action. They're typically going to want to talk to somebody for a few seconds on the air, sort of a question-answer type of thing. And while they're doing that talking, it's almost always going to be a voiceover where you've got flowing action happening in the background as they cut from scene to scene to scene, showing people doing this action while somebody is talking over the top of it. And then finally you're going to cut back to the reporter who's going to do a quick summary. This is where I've been, and so on. And then they hand it back off. You're going to be on the air for maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Okay? And of that, the reporter is talking for 15 or 20. So you've got about 15 seconds worth of voice time in order to frame your message. So you need to do some things. First, let's go back. I keep coming around because there's so many different things to talk about here. Visuals. If you invite a news crew out to visit, if you want them to do some videotaping, pick the right facility if you've got any sort of control over it. You want bright white lighting. Doing a video in a room like this would be challenging. We've got the side light coming in over here with some things. We've got these yellowish overhead sort of incandescent spotlights that give us just little light pools of light as we walk through, and then we've got dark shadows at other places through the room. This is not a good room for a video type of thing. Bright white lights. You want clothing that's going to show up well on television. The kind of shirt I'm wearing today is not a good television shirt. Okay, the plaids and types of things, or anything that's got a lot of detail to it, does not show well on television. It all blurs together and just turns into, in some ways, almost a kaleidoscope as the digital images try and choose which shade of color they're going to display on a little thing. It almost starts... Yes, it can strobe, particularly if you have sort of fine stripes in there. It can really look like a strobing type of effect. So for clothing, where you can set this up, you're going to want bold, bright, big shapes. You're going to want, the plain or big blocks of types of stuff, and you want them to be bold. You want them to be bright, to show up on the screen. Don't look for the really beautiful thing that's got lots of little flowers and kind of stuff inside of it, and some of my wife's favorite skirts with all the little lace and things like that. Those details vanish when you put them on camera. They are of no use at all. In terms of the action, the visuals, you're going to want flowing choreography. You're going to want very smooth dancing. You're going to want swirling. Again, if the ladies are there in skirts, you're going to want to see, they're going to want to do the skirt work because it shows very well on the videos. It looks impressive. You don't want to call anything that's sort of challenging choreography. If you're calling specifically for this segment, make it easy. Use basics, make it flow, make it time right. The audience who's watching has no clue whether your choreography is good or bad. They don't know. All they're seeing is just this swirling type of action that's going on. That's what's going to catch them. The dancers, as they're dancing, don't have them, coach them ahead of time to not worry about mistakes. If they make a mistake along the way, if they end up with the wrong partner, smile and laugh and promenade home with the wrong partner. Don't try and fix it. Don't try and be perfect. You're putting on a television show. You're putting on an image for these people that are watching. You're not trying to do marching drill precision types of things. Don't worry about mistakes. Dancers need to smile. They need to laugh. They need to look like they're having fun when they're doing this. And those and the smiles actually are something that show up well on camera. You can get a sense, even from a distance, is what people's shapes, whether they're smiling or frowning or neutral faces or whatever. So people go to consciously, intentionally smile and laugh a little bit as they're doing the dances. If you're interviewed, if you're being asked questions by the reporter, one of the things that they're almost certainly doing, it's probably not a live shot with you, unless you're doing like a morning show. If it's a recorded spot, what they're going to do some post-processing editing on what you're putting together. Again, they're going to record your voice and play that over top of them looking at someone else, most likely. They're going to play background shots rolling in the background. So you want to give them sound bites. You want to give them chunks they can edit out of your recording and slide into the video presentation as they pull it together. What do I mean by sound bites? If somebody, for example, says, what do you like best about square dancing? Your response shouldn't be, well, we have fun with it. We go all over the country and we travel and we visit. that's not going to make the editing cut. Instead, you need to be prepared. You need to expect that they're going to ask certain questions, like, why do you enjoy square dancing? And your response might be, we really like square dancing because it's aerobic exercise for both your body and your mind, or words to that effect. But have an answer that's there and ready, be prepared with it, and if you help frame the question in your answer, then they don't have to play the sound of somebody saying, why do you like square dancing? Because it's fun. I like square dancing because it's fun is a much better answer than just because it's fun. You don't have to have somebody put the question in front of it. So you can work with the reporters. Mike has in Mike's handout here, read all of this. This is all perfect. It's very, very good. And in there he talks a lot about talking with the reporter, with the press person, with the photographer ahead of time, learn what they're looking for, and help set them up, help them prepare for what you're looking to do. So you can talk about the kinds of questions that they may ask you, and you mentally get in mind, this is what I'm going to answer with this. How long have you been dancing? Why did you do it? How did you get started? We got started when I brought my husband along, or we saw an advertisement or something, and come up with all of these different answers. We got started because our friends told us it was so much fun to do. We got started because we saw it on television. We got started because you can come up with these answers. Let's see. To get your message woven in the interview questions, that you might be showing people dressed up in full regalia. They've got in some cases the guys may have their towels hanging on a thing on the side. I guess we don't really do those towels on belts anymore. But you have the pretty dresses and the matching outfits. But in your responses to questions, you might want to say, we're dressed up today because this is a special occasion. Most of the time we come in casual clothes. And you kind of hope that that's there, but you can put that sort of thing in. How long have you been dancing? Well, I've been dancing for 37 years, but we start dancing. Our new dancers begin after just 2 months. You can, if the reporter is looking for something exceptional, like the 97-year-old lady that's been dancing for 63 years, but your message is, but we're getting lots of dancers in their 40s and 50s now, and we have fun after the first, starting with the first lesson, or we're dancing after the first night. So you can sort of bend the answers a little bit to help put your message across. You want to try and include, as Mike knows in advertising, a call to action of some sort inside your message. Where can people go to learn for more information? Have a short, quick answer for that. ArlingtonSquares.com, SquareDanceChicago.com. Don't give an answer like, well, you go to www.wix.com/BNB-Burlington, /lessons. No, you can't say that. Have a short, quick, simple answer for where people can go for more information. And these days, an internet site is probably the simplest way that you can answer that, or a telephone number or something like that. But be prepared. Talk with the reporter ahead of time. Learn what their expectations are. Give them information before they show up. This is so that their expectations are right. As you talk with news reporters, for example, if you're bringing somebody out from the news team, they are almost certainly going to want to show up in the morning or the afternoon so that they can do their spot for an evening news broadcast. But when is our best examples of dancing? It's typically in the evenings. Okay, we get the guys there they show up first thing in the morning at a convention, and that's the worst image that we can give them. So if you talk with them ahead of time and say, tell you what, why don't you come out Friday night and get some good background shots here when we have our most active dancers and our best type of stuff, and then you can frame that for your Saturday night report. Put it together. If you let them know ahead of time, they're generally going to be willing to work with you around that schedule to get the best shots for their images. Again, Mike's paper talks about this, and you can speak towards it if you wish. But he's got a whole example of how you can send like an electronic message, an email message, or something to the media organization before you arrive. Here's the place, here's the date, here's the time, this is what we expect, this is how many attendees, here's some background facts that you might like to know about some of this, here's the special reason why we're here today, this is the hook, this is what makes today different than any other day when you want to be coming to do this. Last message, I guess, is where you can control things, in general, try to make the images show the kinds of people that you want to attract to the activity. Now this is a hard message for some people to really follow and to understand. But if you're trying to attract people in, say, their 40s or 50s, then you don't want to be showing the 85, 90-year-old person dancing. Okay, you want somebody that looks like the people you want to attract. When we go to do like a morning show at 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's when the morning show people need to arrive, and they want to be done by 6 or 7:30. Who do you typically find most willing to volunteer for something like that? It's going to be the folks that are retired, the folks that have been around in the activity, that have the most time and the most passion for doing this. That may not be the people you want to show. And it's hard to tell volunteers, yeah, you can come, but we don't want you to come. No, you don't want to say it that way. But you do want to kind of deliberately seek out somebody that represents the folks that you're looking for to help make it connect with the people you've got watching. That's sometimes hard to do. Okay, and we all do the best we can. But if you can, for example, at that morning show, have an example of a young teenager. They have, maybe a small girl, a small kid, a young teenager. You've got somebody in their 20s. You got somebody in their 40s. You got somebody in their 70s. You got somebody in their 60s, and they're all in the same square together. Now that gives you a blend where you can really show that this activity appeals to a wide range of people. I could go on and answer a lot of questions. I don't really have anything else. Mike, do you have comments, thoughts you'd like to add to this?
What he said. Yeah, but I know some of you got my paper and maybe some of you have read it, but if any of you want to interject a question at this point, I'd be happy to take it, or I can just move on to the stuff that I've prepared and we can talk about that. Okay. Do you want to run that?
Sure, I'll run this.
Because this is being taped, we ask that you give us your name and the city from which you hail, and we'll try and answer your questions. And please forgive us if we say, "Oh no."
This is more of a comment than a question. I'm Pam Clasper from Toronto, Ontario, and I worked in television news for 25 years as a researcher. And one of the things that will have driven me crazy, and you just have to get over it, is everything that Barry said is true, but when they put you talking over pictures of the dancers dancing, they're playing the music when you're talking, and the pictures they pick from the dancers dancing, that if you know how to square dance, the dancers won't be dancing to the music. They'll be dancing the wrong calls, and you just have to get over that, because you're never going to... I worked in the studio, I worked with the guys, you're never going to convince them of that. So just get over it and let it go. But otherwise, everything Barry said, I can vouch for too.
That is true. They do optimize the editing to match first their perception of what they want to show, and second to make it look good. And so the images don't always match the audio at the same time. They're very disconnected. And that's okay. It's a television show. You're just trying to grab somebody's interest.
I know Claudia up here had a question. Scott, you have a question? Comment? Okay.
My name is Claudia from Strathmore, Alberta. We had an open dance night. The town newspaper people came out. They participated. They took lots of pictures. We were all casually dressed except for one couple. They did a beautiful write-up in the newspaper. They checked with me about the facts and everything. Everything was right on. And the article came out. There was one picture in it, and it was of that couple dressed in traditional outfit. That's what they want. And I still kick myself. I should have just asked them to please pick a different picture. Like, had I been thinking.
To be honest with you, they probably would have ignored your request.
I think because I'm in a small town, they knew me.
Yeah.
I think because being in a small town, I think they would have listened.
It's possible.
But had I thought of it first.
When I get to my stuff, I'll share a story with you that relates to that. So,
But that's a really good point. There are times that you connect, you click with the reporter, with the photographer that's on site. There are times that they overstay what they expected. They think they're coming out for 2 hours, and they end up staying for 6, and they're having a good time, and they enjoy it. That doesn't always translate back into what the editor lets through on what gets finally produced and published at the end. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why that happens. Time constraints. That if you're talking to people in print media, they may find that they have half the print space that they expected to have. And so this reporter develops a much longer article, and it gets chopped back. And the reporter isn't necessarily the one doing the chopping. It's oftentimes somebody else who has a completely different perspective. They weren't there, and so they cut and they show what they think is going to be of most interest to their readers, to their watchers, to their observers. But where you can get the people involved, that often will help move towards, that will help the issue more and more. But it doesn't always come out the way that we want, and that's life.
Scott Brown from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Barry, like the advice you give is sound, okay? It is sound advice, but my question to you is, like for instance, when you said, well, you know, you don't want a whole bunch of seniors out there for your demonstration if you're going to be on TV, if you're trying to attract the 40 to 60-year-old demographic, and that's all sound argument. So the question, but you're not offering any solution when the entire square dance community within the area is 80% comprised of that demographic. So what do you do to solve that problem?
Yes, that's exactly why we bring it up. Because the demographic we have today is not necessarily the demographic we hope to attract. So how can you do this? Well, sometimes you cherry pick just who you contrive a situation to make it look a little bit different than it may be. If you can find, you put, Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I'm having a brain cramp. I can't remember your name.
Sean.
Sean, yes. You pick Sean, and you put Sean front and center in the square, even though he may not be representative of what everybody is. You find somebody, pick Lisa. Lisa would be gorgeous on television, right? And so we put those guys in the square. Where you can. You sort of manufacture the story a little bit. Now, if you go to a convention, you've got far less control over what's happening in the background. It's not easy, but the thing is you think about it ahead of time and do whatever it is you can. It may not be the best that you'd like, but you just work in that direction.
Well, in response to that, like Sean and Lisa and I work very hard on marketing and promotional videos and material for the activity. All right, and we cherry pick that material constantly. We actually look for a combination of, when we pull videos off of YouTube, if you've seen the videos we've done, that's all based on music that's being used. All right, and a mix of square dance clothes and street clothes. We actually intentionally look for that mix. If we don't have it, we don't use it. So, I mean, that's how we do it. All right, but like, say, for instance, like a few years ago, he had the news media come out and wanted to interview him because he's a member of a particular club in Pittsburgh. And they wanted his perspective as a youth on the activity. So he gave that interview, and, of course, the entire focus of that club was on him. But getting the community in our area to cooperate, well, that's another story. So how do you get your local community of dancers to cooperate with the project?
You want me to tackle that one?
That's your game.
All right. Mike Hogan, Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, La Vista, Nebraska, suburb. That is not easy. It is not easy to get your local community to participate in this. Now, I don't want to get way, way, way far off of the topic, but in this case, especially for those that might be listening to the audio of this at a later time, the scenario here is that someone has contacted us far enough in advance that we have the opportunity to preset who they're going to come and videotape. And if you have that opportunity and you have a specific demographic that you want to try and encourage to participate in our activity, typically that group is a little bit younger or a lot younger, depending on the average of the dancers that are in your community. So the challenge there is I would love to set up a pat square of dancers that are in their 30s to 50s or 40s to 60s or somewhere in whatever that age group that I decide to. And then the challenge is, how do you do that and not alienate dancers that are regularly coming to your dance? That is not easy. We have a nice young lady in the Omaha area who is 79, I think, 80, somewhere in there. And she got the word that Mike Hogan only wanted young people to dance in our parade, and it crushed her. Never my intent. Love this lady to death, of course, like you all do with the people that dance in your communities. And I was able to pull her aside and explain to her the marketing element of it, that, I said, well, what we're trying, I didn't say I don't want you to dance, or that I don't even necessarily want you to dance in our parade, but our situation is that we're trying to reach out to a new generation of dancers that just is not your generation. It's like your children's generation. And the thing that happens with our children is, I'm starting, I personally, for the record, am 53 years old. I'm finally getting out of that area where most of the dancers are at least mom and dad's age. Now they're getting closer to me. But for the longest time, I was a real oddity because I was at least a generation younger than the people that I associate with all the time. That is not normal. And so if you understand the sociology of it, that most people are going to see themselves fit in with people that are of their own generation. Our comfort zone, socially, our comfort zone is generally about plus or minus 10 years or so of our current age group. It varies a little depending on what actual age you are, but roughly that. So what I said to her is, and I won't use her name, but I said, what we want to do is we want to try to be appealing to about a 45-year-old. And, your kids are 45, and they love you, and we love you. But a 45-year-old does not want to dance with their mom. And you know that because you've tried to recruit your kids to dance. So if I put you in front of 45-year-olds, they are not going to participate. It's not against you. It just is what it is. It's reality. I had the chance to actually have that conversation with her, and we love each other. Again, it's all good. In many cases, you won't. It's very tough to control that. So the toughest challenge for this kind of scenario where all of a sudden somebody contacts you is that you've never had the opportunity to talk marketing and strategy and those kinds of things with people before it actually happens. I have a group in Omaha that we are doing ongoing exhibitions and parades and things that we can do because, like everybody, we have no money. So we're trying to do everything that we can do to get out in front of people just to raise the awareness of square dancing. I don't have the privilege of only asking those people that are 30 to 50 years old to participate in those because we do too many of them. So there's no easy answer to how do you avoid hurting feelings if that's the case. Let me give you a scenario. These are one of the things that Barry talked about. Many stations around the country are now doing a local activities, spotlight on local business type of show. Okay, one of the television stations in Omaha does is it's an hour-long show. They're usually 4 to 6 minute segments. Of course, commercial breaks because they got to pay the bills. And each one of those segments is either about a community activity event that's going on. It could be a feature, a spotlight on an organization like our square dance activity. Usually there's businesses that are in there that talk about, it's springtime and you should come out to our garden center and all that. Now, they charge for all that stuff. And in some cases, they'll put us in as part of it because they do some of those segments to nonprofit organizations for free. In that case, you get to choose who. And the way that you choose who is you make your list and you pick up your phone and you call the people that you want to have in it. And you don't tell everybody else that you're going to even do the show until it's already booked and you're like, hey, I wish I could have you help us, but I've got a set square and they only have room for a square. And so we're already set to go. But, we sure want you to tune in and tell all your friends about it, and that'll help us a lot. That's about the only way that you can handle that. You're going to hurt some feelings when you start to discriminate based on age. Yet if we want to be successful, it's just a standard marketing thing. If you want to attract a 50-year-old, you got to put 50-year-olds in front of them. If you want to attract a 30-year-old, you got to put 30-year-olds in front of them. It's a real challenge. Okay, if I jump into my stuff real quick. Oop.
I think I had that.
Oh, wait a
off.
minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I'm the moderator. All right. And of course, I didn't bring my glasses. So when I was asked to participate, anybody have readers? Oh, I don't want you. I don't want those. Anyway, so the idea when I got this, I'm actually kind of late to the game in participating in this particular panel. I'm not sure who was going to do it, but they had to back out, and so they got a hold of us about maybe 3 weeks ago to do this. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And it turns out that really this Overt Operations paper that I wrote is the second half of the paper that I wrote last year when I did the session on media relations. So with the exception of a few edits, it was pretty straightforward. Yeah, that ain't going to work. So here we go. So if we're lucky enough to have a reporter, somebody contact you, somebody in the mass media that wants to do a story, for all mass media reporters, the key for them is that the story will be of interest to their consumers. Television viewers, radio listeners, newspaper, magazine, and internet have readers. So in whatever format that they're going to do that, they want it to be of interest to their consumer. Many times they already have a predetermined angle. They have a predetermined result that they want from coming and covering you. It may be the story of Barry's grandma at 92 who's still square dancing, and that's what they want to talk about. You don't have much control over what they want to come out and talk about. So here we go. And congratulations, a reporter contacted you and has asked to come to your dance. So now how do you handle that? So if they're coming to your dance, I would recommend that you contact them first and find out what they want. Find out what is it that you want to cover. Is it about health? Is it about a particular dancer? Is it about the activity in general? What is it that what's your story going to be about? Because if I know what that is, I can help you by giving you a lot of information ahead of time and make sure that you get to talk to the right people that know the most about what it is that you want to talk about. That's front stage. Backstage, I can also feed you the information, that kind of news and information that I want people to hear about our activity, right? So you have the ability now to have some influence on the information that reporter actually gets. So, yeah, what is it they want to write? If so, wait a minute, are they going to write an article on the experience? If so, the information you can provide. What is the information you can provide them with? What is the article going to be themed on? I wrote in here if it's about entertainment, maybe you want to get them connected with the caller before the dance. So when they come out and witness the dance, they'll already have a little knowledge about what the caller's trying to get accomplished, and that allows them to write a better story about the entertainment value of square dancing, right? So if you're using a variety of genres of music, they don't know that we sing. They have no clue that square dance callers sing. Huh? Some of us do, Bear. Like for instance, I really like some Neil Diamond tunes. Like what's that one? Sweet Caroline. Yeah, that's a great singing call. You should try that. You're welcome. So they don't know that we sing. They have no clue. They think that we auction. That's what they think. So to be able to tell them ahead of time that we use all kinds of genres of music. Oh, you don't just use hillbilly twang? No, we use all kinds of stuff. And we actually sing. You do? Yeah. So you have the opportunity to sometimes persuade them to incorporate more information that makes our activity more appealing to whoever they are writing video, whoever they're feeding that story to. So now let's say a producer. This would be a producer is generally a television producer. So producers asked you to make an appearance on their midday news broadcast. So that would be the similar thing to that show that I was talking about. But how many of you, your noontime television news broadcast does interviews that are kind of public interest type stories, right? It's pretty common, especially, and it's most common with their noon news show. So if that happens, what are you going to do? Well, in this case, you likely already heard about about what the interview is going to be about, and I would send them a fact sheet ahead of time. I would get to know that producer. Now, here's the thing. You won't get to be interviewed by the producer. You'll be interviewed by one of their news people, right? You don't get to talk to the news reporter who's going to interview before you show up for the interview. You don't get to, am I right, Pam? You don't get to do that. And when you show up for that interview, that news reporter already has their list of questions written out. They're going to take you into a room, we often call it a green room, and they're going to sit down with you and they're going, okay, you're going to be coming up in the third segment, and I just wanted to touch base real quick. You'll be sitting right over here, and when you come out, I just wanted to touch base. Here's the questions that I'm going to ask you. Bam, 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 bam. Answer them quickly. We're done. Smile, and we're off camera. Right? You have no control. But you do have some control if you communicate with them and provide them valuable information before that ever happens. Because the producer, the news host that interviews you, they didn't even write the questions. The producer wrote the questions. All that, and I mean this in the kindest way to all those on-air personalities, most of those people are paid to sit down with you, smile, look good, and read a question. and then they move on to the next piece. So if that happens, as an example, we have a square dance weekend that we started a year ago in Omaha over Memorial Day weekend, and if they happen to be coming out to cover that weekend, I'm going to give them lots of information. I'm on dates, times. In that, I made sure to point out that the largest crowds will be in the evenings. Great photo opportunity. So what I've said is, please come and cover this at night when our floor is full, right? This year, Mike Seastrom's coming in to do it with me, so I brag about Mike Seastrom. Mike is recognized as one of the most talented callers in the world. He's been all over the United States, Canada, Europe, and Japan. His choreographic presentation, along with his outstanding singing, make him a favorite worldwide. He's also an accomplished teacher. Page 2, continuing to go on about Mike Seastrom. Recording artist, by the way. As soon as I said recording artists, they're like, what?
Recording artist?
What? Square dance callers are recording artists? Tell me more about that, right? Caller coach, what does that mean? And has received the prestigious milestone award from CALLERLAB, the International Square Dance Caller Association. So there's all kinds of things that I've given them just a little bit about, that they may go down that line and start asking questions in those directions. And if they do, I've taken control of where that interview is going. Make sense? And then there's me. Nice guy from La Vista. Expected attendance, about 250 dancers from 7 states. Now, when you tell them that, they're like, seriously? People from 7 states come to this dance in Omaha? They have no clue about this stuff. And if you can share that information with them ahead of time, all of a sudden their education about our activity just went through the roof compared to what they were planning to come out and take some pictures of cans and talk about this 92-year-old lady, which is fine if they want to do that. And then I give them more facts. Square dancing is modernized with new music and new dress codes. Square dancing is a fun social activity with many added benefits. Well, what is that? What are those added benefits? Square dancing offers great low-impact exercise, blah, 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 all that stuff. For the tape, let me hit it real quick. So square dance offers great low-impact physical exercise, and it gives stats about that. Square dancing strengthens mental skills and reduces stress, and it gives some information about that. And then, because this was about our dance, the Omaha Area Square Dance Council was made up of 7 square dance clubs and 2 round dance clubs. And there's more to that. When they arrive for the interview, the on-air personality or producer usually has a predetermined list of questions that they want to ask. They'll go over them with you. I think I covered that. Be aware of how you look for the interview. I'll wait. It's okay. So if this is supposed to be a fun, healthy activity for folks of all ages, and that's what we want them to get the message. If you put a 78-year-old overweight, frowning woman with white hair in a checkered square dance dress with full petticoat on screen, you'll never sell the idea that we've modernized, that it is fun, or that is for folks of all ages. Sounds like a no-brainer, but what? Scott, just say it. What? Sex sells. It does. It's right. Scott's right. Sex sells. You know, if you want to go after, let me give you this. If you want to go after a 50-year-old, I'm telling you, there are some smoking hot 50-year-old women out there, like Denise Hogan. Hang on, Scott. Before you, microphone. Scott Brown, Pennsylvania.
If you go back to the 50s, when Lloyd Shaw first started the movement, and he had troops of dancers who went out and around the country, he put them in outfits that reflected the dance attire of the 1950s, which were very sexy and provocative at the time, and that was the poodle skirt outfits that we adopted later on, all right, as the modern Western-style square dance clothes. But back then, that was provocative. Today, what do we have?
Whether the interview is live or for an article to be published later, keep in mind that you do not have you don't have control. You have to over what is written. So you want to control what you can. Bear Miller, you have a comment? Work ahead of time. So you got those points.
Bear Miller from Denver, Colorado. Just to answer Scott's thing, too, when we talk about Pappy Shaw doing his thing, he was taking high school kids around the country. He wasn't taking 50, 60-year-old, 70-year-old people. He was taking high school kids around the country.
That is true. Part of why I didn't reply or respond to his comments, because you understand? All right, so let's move on. Congratulations, a local newspaper reporter just showed up. Unannounced, didn't know they were coming, just showed up. Right? So we didn't get to talk to them ahead of time. What are the story about? What do they want to cover? Photographer shows up, starts shooting pictures. They usually like to shoot pictures from the floor so they get moving feet, and and they want the skirts flowing and stuff that we it's actually a wonderful part of our activity, but you have to be careful. Some people don't want that.
Sorry, Mike, just to interrupt.
Absolutely.
One comment on pictures and camera angles. You might be able to suggest to the photographer, particularly if it's video, if there's a way for them to get an overhead shot looking down on something like a teacup chain.
Invite them up on the stage.
Yep. Let them get a camera angle down from above. Shows very well. Thanks.
You bet. So if that happens, then if somebody comes in unannounced, take control the best that you can. Be polite, introduce yourself, find out as quickly as you can what it is they want to cover, and then if there's something specific that they want to talk about, you can guide them to the right people to answer your questions. You can take them and introduce them to your caller. You can take them to a younger couple and introduce a younger couple in your club if that's the angle that you want to use, and get them to interview that person. So there's a lot of ways that you can still take control of that situation, and you can always offer to fill in all the blanks for them afterwards and send them all this information afterwards. I have a whole nother page, and I don't have a whole lot of time. I want to get some questions yet. So generally, first I would tell you that if you're listening to the tape, these documents are available from CALLERLAB, and you should be able to get them right from the CALLERLAB website. If you cannot find them on the website, call the home office and ask for it, and they will get you the documentation so you can follow what we're talking about. There's a whole list of bullet points of generally the things that you want to talk about. Always start with the fact that this is a fun activity. There is one primary reason that people get involved and stay involved with square dancing, and that's the social aspect. I think there's plenty of people that love the gamesmanship. There's plenty of people that love the music. There's plenty of people that like that it is healthy for you. There's a lot of different reasons. But if it weren't fun and I was looking for staying healthy, I would go to the gym, right? It's the social aspect. So I would always encourage you to start with that it's fun. Smile, be enthusiastic. Share stories about lifelong friendships, about trips that you've gone on. All of those kinds of things that are really positive about our activity. Now, some reporters just have to have the dirt. You've heard if it bleeds, it leads, right? So you'll get questions that are fishing for the negative stories, like, isn't square dancing a dying art? Or why aren't there any young people at your dances? So those are tough questions to answer and issues that we're dealing with on a regular basis. So here's my suggestion. If you're being interviewed, answer them truthfully, and then, don't just go, yes, our dancers are older. Right? However, we have seen in the last few years an emergence of some new, younger people that are beginning to get involved with the activity. That's because we're doing new dress styles, and we're doing new music, and we're doing things that are causing more and more younger dancers to become involved. Now, maybe that's not true in your area, but they don't really know, and it is true in several areas. So it's not lying, and I don't want you to lie, but I do want you to give them information that helps them to spin it in a positive way for us.
We're seeing a resurgence in square dancing. We're seeing a rebound.
Those
Yes.
kinds of things, absolutely. I would not recommend that you make specifically. You should not make a reference to the declining population of square dancing. You should not make reference to the increased average age of square dancers. In other words, why, if it's something that we think is a challenge that we're battling now, don't bring it to their attention, and so forth. So I want to share a quick story about an article that was written in the Omaha World Herald. That's our big newspaper in Omaha. I had the opportunity for a reporter to get a hold of us ahead of time, make arrangements to come out and cover us, and in that I was actually able to frankly talk to her about some of the issues that we're facing, because she did ask, aren't dancers a lot older now than they used to be? And I said, they are, and of course we love them, but it's a challenge for us. And she was open to hearing about about what the challenge was, and about some of the things that we're doing to generate new generations of dancers. So we were able to talk about the music. We were able to talk about a whole lot of different things. And by the time we were done, we spent about an hour and a half on the phone talking about square dancing. And by the time we were done, she wrote the article exactly the way I wanted her to write the article. You guys as callers, and you ladies as callers, we have this ability to befriend people. We have because of our entertainment skills, our showmanship skills, our personalities, our knowledge of the activity, we have the ability to make somebody who's trying to write a story look good when they write that story. If you will help them with that, they will do their best to write it to put us in a positive light. And that's as much as you can control. And if you get there, you've done your job. Okay. Questions, comments? Again, please use the microphone. And tell us who you are and where you're from.
I'm Mary Ellen Cody from Houston, Texas. And I think the most important thing is, until we as a square dance community start focusing on the new dancer, we're destined not to succeed. I mean, when we have demonstrations, when you have the opportunity to reach out like you were saying, I mean, it's so important to just let go of the past and focus on the new dancers, or we're not going to have any more square dancing. So.
Janet Oliveri, Denver, Colorado. If you are forced to use your older dancers, I know several 70 and 80-year-old dancers who I would never guess they were that old. They look and act like they are in their 40s and 50s. So I would also take those people and use them.
That's a great point. Yeah, there's lots of people that are quite a bit older than what we think they are when we meet them. It's also personalities. Happy people with smiling faces, even if they're older, are gonna get positive coverage instead of negative coverage. Angie?
I'm Angie from Atlanta, and I was going to say we're focusing on, in our area, on empty nesters and homeschoolers. And some of our club members said, why are we focusing on homeschoolers? And I call it planting the seed. They have to have an education credit, and they come in there, they're typically teenagers, and they have a blast dancing. Now, they may not continue to dance right now, but I truly believe that down the road, they will come back. And some of them stick around. And, they get in there, they dance with our older dancers who are like grandparents to them, and they just really have a good time. And then we got the gap there with the empty nesters. So, don't discredit someone that may not be dancing today, but I really, truly feel like they will come back down the road. And the more fun that you can make it and upbeat, I just think that they'll come back to you.
So, Barry, as you're going to Pam, real quick story. So we have a couple that took lessons with us in Omaha, younger than I. That's and they are homeschool kids, and they're a Catholic couple. They have lots of children. This was their break from their kids. They came and took lessons from us, and another couple that they met decided to come and take lessons from us, and then they brought their kids. And so then the first couple who was trying to get away from their kids brought their kids. And now my club has 5 or 6 couples that are in that age group where the children are still home and are going to be for a little while, and their kids are dancing with us. So now I have a multi-generational club, and that is a fantastic story for a reporter to cover.
Pam Clasper, Toronto. When Mike mentioned that the hosts of your local TV show, or radio show for that matter, are doing a different story every day, so are the producers. The media is cut back like everything else. The things are tighter. Producers are trying to juggle 3 and 4 stories at once. If you can, the more information you can give them, keep yourself prepared with a little checklist, something like what Mike's got here, some kind of a checklist of information about square dancing, something you can give them because they're in a hurry. And if you can be prepared ahead of time to do something really quick, just keep it in your kit. Make up a few copies and just keep it in your briefcase as you're traveling. And then you can hand it out with the pertinent facts that they may want to be, you want them to use as part of the story. You're going to be helping them do their job, and you'll got more chance of getting on air because you've made it easier for them because they're trying to do 16 things at once.
Last quick comment here on producing your own television content. It is possible, although it's sometimes difficult. Most cable stations, most cable providers do have a requirement to provide some sort of outlet for community-developed content, and in fact are willing to train members of the community on how to produce and manufacture this stuff, and can offer studios in which you can do this. The larger cable providers are not as interested. I've been on Comcast list for our area to take a class for the last 6 years, and they have not yet held a class. But smaller cable providers oftentimes are more willing to work with you on that. The lead example of that is the Friendship Set to Music program, produced up in the Minneapolis area. They've produced hundreds of shows, and they now provide that to cable operators in 17 states. We also worked with a local community college that that teaches courses on television production and the like. And we worked with them to produce our own documentary, it turned out to be. The problem with that was they kind of took it the way they wanted to go and not really the way we wanted to go. So it didn't turn out the way we were hoping, but had we continued to work with them, I think we could have brought that around as well. So there's options out there. Consider community colleges, schools, and things doing video production.
Okay, so we have about 10 minutes until the next session starts, so we're going to wrap it up here. I just want to, again, if you are listening to this on the tape, you can get the documents from CALLERLAB. If you want more information, this is, like I said, this is a session that I did last year, but if you want information about how to develop a relationship and garner coverage from media outlets, that's in a media relations presentation that was done last year at the CALLERLAB convention. Thank you very much. And that's also available on the CALLERLAB website. So I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope we can help you. If you have any questions, we'd love to stay and help you with that as well. Please give Barry Johnson a nice hand. Thank you, Jerry.
And Mike
Barry.
Hogan.
Have a good day. I will tell you, though, they're asking about the article. I don't have that particular article, but the CALLERLAB, there's a new website from the CALLERLAB website called Square Dance Knowledge, and it has multiple well-written articles that you can sort through. You can even copy those and send them to a reporter and ask them if they want to cover something that you're doing. Knowledge database, by the way, put together by Barry Clasper. And Pam's been the one gathering the articles, probably. That is, there's a Birds of Feather session tomorrow, would be in the afternoon session on Birds of Feather at 5. Yep. Okay.